Number one is maybe it's part of a larger automated supply chain solution system, which we're not going to program to the full extent, but I'm going to show you how the payment and maybe the dispatch of items might work via the blockchain, which you usually do via a traditional system. Then if you have multiple parties involved in such a payment and dispatch system, this is where the blockchain really can shine. This is where it has its strengths. So in this case, I want to show you a possible path, like a beginning of a path, where this kind of system can come in. Then I'm going to show you how this dispatch could look like without a middleman, and then our project is finished. It's not really about the supply chain solution itself. It is about learning how to use Truffle, how to use unit tests, how to use migrations, how to get comfortable with the tools and everything around that. All right. So in our case, we want to build a very specific example where we're going to use these event triggers. So let's say we have a new item and that costs, 1 ether, 500 Finny, 500 Wei, 1 Wei, doesn't matter. There's a new item that costs something. And this item we want to track via the blockchain. And in this case, I want to have a specific address where this item can be paid to. And that happens by the customer. So we are going to create an item, and that item we get an address back, and we give this address to the customer, and the customer has to transfer a specific amount of money to that address. It's like sending ether from one address to another, just that in this case, behind this address, there's our item, and it's gonna get tracked. So what happens? When the payment happens, when the customer paid this item, then we can do a withdrawal that happens by the owner, that's us, so we can withdraw the money. If the item costs 1 ether, then the customer pay 1 ether and we can withdraw the money. But there happens a second thing, and that is the dispatch of the item. So somebody, maybe a warehouse, maybe we ourselves, maybe somebody else is getting a notification that, hey, this item was paid, let's go and dispatch it. So it's gonna be an event trigger. We're going to use events for that. So this is the topics that I want to cover in this section. It's going to be a full Solidity project again. It's going to be a fast walkthrough, but I still want to walk you through this project. We're going to develop it in Remix, and then we are moving it over to offline development. I want to show you something new in Solidity that you haven't seen before. That is address call value. That is, if you want to interact with another smart contract, with another address, and you want to send more gas along, then you would need this call value. So I'm going to give you an in-depth explanation of that. Then we are moving our smart contracts from Remix into local Truffle. So that's going to be fun. Then I'm going to show you around in the Truffle Development Console. We're going to use that instead of Ganache. You can still use Ganache if you want, but I'm going to show you something new. We're going to use migrations, and we're slightly going to dig into debugging with Truffle. And then I'm going to show you Truffle boxes. We are going to use React, and I'm going to use Visual Studio Code to develop locally. I have to say, the whole project is not about React. So it's not a JavaScript project. We are going to use the very basics of React. If you have never seen React, if you don't know what is React, I have not really worked a lot in React. I just want to show you some examples of event triggers. It's going to be very basic JavaScript, and I hope it's going to be easy enough to follow along for you as well, even if you've never done anything in JavaScript. So stay tuned. And then, as a last thing, I want to quickly look into unit tests using Truffle. Okay, this is basically a Truffle Solidity and JavaScript project. There are a couple of limitations which I already said at the beginning. First of all, this is not a production-ready supply chain solution. It's for educational purposes of learning how you can use event triggers in maybe a larger scale solution. It should not be a surprise. I'm not claiming it's production ready, really. Not only for legal reasons, it's also not production ready. We are going to develop it to a point where it's usable, where you see where this can go, but we are not going to apply any design. We are not going to deploy it on live servers and so on. But I'm going to show you all the crucial parts that is necessary to develop such a solution. It's still cool, and you can adapt it later